Hey everybody, we are here on site at the Green Valley Ranch Resort just outside of Las Vegas, the new site, at least for this year, for Mountain West Football Media Days. I am Davis Potter, Wyoming beat writer for the Star-Tribune and Post Authority. I'm going to quickly recap the first day of Media Days here. Players and coaches for all the West Division teams spoke today on Tuesday. And then tomorrow, all six Mountain Division teams will take their turn. That includes Wyoming coach Craig Bull, linebacker Logan Wilson, and kicker Cooper Ross. So be sure to check out trib.com, postauthority.com throughout this week for complete coverage of Media Days here. I'm going to get to some of the more interesting things that some of the players and coaches from the West Division teams, as well as Mountain West Commissioner Craig Thompson, had to say today. But first, the conference released its preseason all-league team, and Cooper Roth was voted Special Teams Player of the Year preseason, which no shock there because he was voted Special Teams Player of the Year at the end of last year. He was the only Wyoming player voted to the team, though, which means no Logan Wilson, which may have come as a surprise to some. I voted him or voted for him for the team, but there's a lot of good linebacker play around the league this year, a lot of production coming back at that position. Wyoming was picked to finish fourth in the Mountain Division. Again, probably the range a lot of people expected them to be, because I really think it's going into the year anyway. It's Boise State, Utah State in a tier by themselves, and then everybody else until proven otherwise. Air Force was picked to finish third in the division, and I voted for Wyoming third and Air Force fourth, so I just had them flipped, and really it was a coin flip for me. You can understand that from a voting perspective. Boise State, yet again, picked to win the Mountain Division. It's the sixth straight year the Broncos have been the preseason favorite to win the division. Even without Brett Rippon, there's a lot of confidence, obviously among us media members and I think around the league, and the talent that the Broncos still have up and down their roster. They recruit better than anybody else in the league, and really you just kind of give them the benefit of the doubt at this point until proven otherwise throughout the season. There's still obviously a lot of talent there in Boise. They've got the preseason conference defensive player of the year in Curtis Weaver. Obviously a lot of confidence still in the Broncos, and as there should be. They got 15 of the first place votes. Utah State got the other 6. I was one of those 6. I actually picked the Aggies to win the division. I really like Jordan Love at quarterback, as do a lot of people. He's a guy with Rippon and Marcus McMaryion at Fresno State. With those guys gone off to the NFL, he's by far, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. Cole McDonald from Hawaii may have a case to say for that. He's obviously puts up a lot of numbers in that system that they run, but Utah State also has some key pieces back on defense, but they lose 4 of their starting offensive linemen. It's probably going to be a fight between those two, and we'll see if anybody else in the division can rise up. But on the West Division side, Fresno State yet again picked to win the division by media. Boise State and Fresno State have played in the last 2 conference championship games, so not a whole lot of change there at the top. As far as what was said today, I'll start with Craig Thompson, the Mountain West Commissioner, because obviously there are a lot of pressing issues league-wide, just when you think about the upcoming TV contract, because their current deal runs out next summer, and then the bowl lineup, which the Mountain West has operated with 5 contracted bowls the last couple of years, which is 1 bowl short of what they've been allotted for the next 6-year bowl cycle, which begins with the 2020 season. Obviously, Wyoming was sort of a victim of that last year when they were the last team in the Mountain West to become bowl eligible at 6-6, and then they were left out because there weren't enough contracted bowl slots. So, but what Craig Thompson said today was that the league will probably announce sometime in the fall exactly what the details of their new TV deal entails. Obviously, he didn't get into a lot of specifics today and declined to, essentially because the league is still in negotiations. One thing to keep in mind is the American Athletic Conference. They recently agreed to a 12-year deal with ESPN. The Mountain West, Craig Thompson said today, is not going to go that long. They're going to go with a shorter contract, just because the market for viewership is fluctuating. With the younger generation, a lot of them are cutting the cord, and you're having to balance TV with digital streaming options, and you just don't know what that market and even what the revenue might look like 8, 10, 12 years from now. So I obviously don't know how long the deal is going to be, but I would think around 5, 6, 7 years, somewhere around there. We'll see. But Craig Thompson did say that he expects the revenue to increase for each member institution with the next TV deal. Because right now, under the current contract, every member institution other than Hawaii, because Hawaii is a football-only member, everybody else gets $1.1 million as part of the revenue sharing, and then Boise State gets an additional $1.8 as part of the separate TV deal that they've been allowed to negotiate for their home games. That they kind of maneuvered and were allowed basically to do as with the Mountain West needing incentive to keep them in the Mountain West a few years back, if you remember, when they were flirting with the idea of leaving the Mountain West for the Big East. So that is the latest with the TV contract. Again, that's supposed to be announced probably sometime in the fall, and then it will go into effect starting in July of 2020. As far as the bowl lineup, Craig Thompson did say that the league is going to get back to the 6 contracted bowls that it's been allotted for the next 6-year bowl cycle. That is assuming that they keep or renew their contracts with the Hawaii Bowl, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, the Arizona Bowl, and New Mexico Bowl. Right now, the 5th contracted bowl that they have is the Las Vegas Bowl, obviously, which usually takes the Mountain West champ every year. But the Las Vegas Bowl is essentially cutting ties with its tie-in with the Mountain West. And electing to go with a more premier matchup in the future that will be an all Power 5 conference matchup. So to take the place of that, the Mountain West is getting a contracted bowl with a new bowl that is going to be formed with the new bowl cycle in Los Angeles. So it's just taking the place of the bowl tie-in that they had with Las Vegas and moving that over to the new bowl game that'll be created in Los Angeles with once the new 6-year bowl cycle starts. So those are really the highlights from Craig today. As far as what some the players and coaches from the West Division teams talked about, I mainly talked to San Diego State, UNLV, and Nevada, because those are the 3 teams from the West Division that are rotating back on Wyoming's schedule in the fall. They have not played them since 2016 as part of the Mountain West unbalanced schedule. And it was interesting talking to particularly some of the players that were still around back the last time that UNLV and San Diego State played Wyoming 3 years ago. San Diego State running back Juwan Washington, he's a senior now, was a freshman on that team, and even the senior linebacker for UNLV, Javon White. It was interesting talking to them because the first thing they talked about was just the weather that they remember and how cold and the snow. Obviously when you play Wyoming and in October, November, that time of year, you're susceptible to snow games and just how cold it was. And Juwan Washington actually said when San Diego State's schedule was finalized earlier this year that they specifically looked to see where they were going to be playing Wyoming, and it was happy it was being played in San Diego. And they'll go to San Diego State on October 12th. But sort of the theme in talking to all of them was just how physical they remembered Wyoming being even 3 or 4 years ago when Craig Bowl was just starting to form the identity of his program at Wyoming. And obviously that's something that Craig Bowl teams have been synonymous with, even going back to his time at North Dakota State. And the players today that I talked to talked about how they just remember how physical it was and how they got so beat up physically and bruised up from that game, just playing the style that Wyoming likes to play. So It's interesting to hear them talk about that, and even despite the dogfight they know they'll probably be in physically, how they were excited to be back on the schedule because they were have a lot of respect for Wyoming's program, what it's been able to do under Craig Bowl, and they kind of envision it as a upper half of the Mountain West program now. So that was sort of the highlight to take away from talking to them. But UNLV also, it's a big year for Tony Sanchez, their fifth-year coach. He did wonders with nearby Bishop Gorman High School here in Las Vegas, and got the UNLV job back in 2014. But they have not been bowl eligible under him, so that success has not translated yet from high school to the collegiate level. And he didn't shy away from that today. He talked about how this year might be a make or break year for him, and fully accepted that, and talked about how that program needs to take a step forward. And that is an interesting, maybe sort of sneaky team, I think, this year in the Mountain West, just because Armani Rogers is back and healthy going into this year. And if Mountain West fans will remember, Armani Rogers was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year a couple of years ago. A dynamic quarterback, a dual threat guy, that can make plays happen when things break down around him. And they were 2-2 last year before he got hurt and missed the rest of the season with a toe injury. So, he's a guy that if he can stay healthy, I don't think UNLV is going to compete for the West Division Championship or anything, but I do think if he can stay healthy and that defense can improve, because there's not a whole lot further for that defense to go. I mean, that defense was awful for them last year. If they can just be decent on that side of the ball and keep Armani Rogers healthy, I think it's a team that can push for 6 wins and bowl eligibility. So, that's really going to wrap up the first day here. Again, if you missed any of our advanced coverage, or even if you want to see how I voted personally in the preseason ballot for the all-conference team, you can look at that and check all that out online. I will be back tomorrow to recap the second and final day of media days here. Again, all 6 of the Mountain Division teams will take their turn tomorrow, including Wyoming and Craig Bowl and Wyoming's player representatives. So I will be back then to wrap all of that up. Until then, continue to check out trib.com and pokesauthority.com for complete coverage over the next 2 days of Mountain West Football Media Days here from Las Vegas.